over, and then there will be time for some Q&A. If you would like to provide any feedback, you can do it via written submission that can be sent to the planning staff. The written responses can be sent to us by June 23rd at the end of the day if you want them to be considered as part of the public hearing. You are also welcome to attend the public hearing and provide an oral response to council in order to consider during the public hearing. Today's agenda for this presentation will provide you with a bit of a background, what has changed from draft 2 to draft 3, what is proposed based on first reading, and are the next steps for this project. We'll start with some background. Why is this project needed? This project began as a result of provincial legislative requirements. In 2018, the province required all municipalities in Nova Scotia to adopt comprehensive planning documents and zoning for all lands within their boundaries. These documents must address the statements of provincial interest and the minimum planning requirements established by the province. What is planning? The project involved the creation of two documents, a municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. A municipal planning strategy sets the vision for the municipality through policies, and the land use bylaw implements the policies through regulations, such as general provisions and zones. So what is zoning? Zoning regulates land use by dividing areas into zones that are focused on different types of uses. Zones typically includes a list of permitted or prohibited uses and regulations. There are 5 statements of provincial interest. This includes housing, infrastructure, ensuring safe supply of drinking water, protection of agricultural land, and flood risk mitigation. Why is this project needed? In addition to meeting legislative requirements, planning provides important benefits. It helps shape growth, strengthen the local economy, and protect the character and values of the community. How will this affect residents and properties? All properties will be zoned. Zoning in existing planned areas would largely remain unchanged. Zoning rules can and will be changed over time as needed. There will be some general provisions that will apply to those existing planned areas, for example, inland watercourses or inland wetland regulations. It is important to note, though, that these documents are a living document and can be subject to change at any point in time. How will this affect residents and properties? Existing uses and buildings can continue to exist without any need to change. They are usually referred to as lawfully existing uses in the draft documents. A legal non-conforming use or building, often called a grandfathered use, is still allowed and can be fixed and rebuilt, and in most cases also expanded. Future uses and buildings will need to follow the new rules. Where are we in this process? As mentioned, this project has been ongoing since 2020 with lots of public engagement throughout. Council passed first reading of draft 3 of the planning documents on June 9th, 2026. We have 2 information sessions that were scheduled. There was one in June 16th, and tonight is the virtual information session. Tonight's main goal is to provide with information about what is proposed and answer questions to help you understanding. And what's the most important part is the way your voice heard by council is also to attend the public hearing and information and raise your voice or write us a written submission. As the project has evolved, there have been 3 different versions of the planning documents: a draft 1, draft 2, and draft 3. The third draft is the draft that passed first reading on June 9th and represents a simplified version of what was proposed in earlier drafts. Draft 3 improves consistency and clarity. It refines the definitions and responds to concerns raised through the engagement and review process. For example, key updates were made to better support agricultural land use while managing growth, such as cluster developments are proposed to be prohibited in the rural agricultural potential zone to help preserve agricultural land. What is being proposed? So now we will shift to providing you with an overarching picture of the regulations that passed first reading. We'll start with zones. There are 9 zones in total. The rural zones include the Rural General Zone, the Rural Agricultural Potential Zone, the Rural Residential Zone, and the Rural Village Zone. The Rural General Zone is intended to preserve rural character by applying limited land use controls while allowing a wide range of rural activities. The Rural Agricultural Potential Zone is intended to preserve valuable agricultural land throughout the rural areas by limiting subdivision. The Rural Residential Zone is intended to support low-density residential development while maintaining the rural character of established residential areas. The Rural Village Zone is intended to support the continued growth and development of villages, and it is applied to 3 areas: the La Have community, New Germany, and a small part of Petite Rivière. There are 4 zones which fall under the category of environment and recreation: the Conservation Zone, the Protected Watershed 1 Zone, the Protected Watershed 2 Zone, and the Recreation and Park Zone. The Conservation Zone intends to safeguard the ecological integrity of land entrusted, donated, or designated for conservation purposes. The Protected Watershed 1 Zone intends to protect drinking water supplies. It is applied to Dares Lake and Oakland Lake, as well as nearby conservation lands. The Protected Watershed 2 Zone intends to protect drinking water supplies as well. It is applied to privately owned properties of the larger watershed of Heb-Melipsigit and Minimkik lakes. The intention of the Recreation and Park Zone is to maintain and protect public recreation areas. In the growth center zones, there's the mixed-use service zone, which is intended to support the continuation and growth of a denser mixed development pattern in areas near Cookville and Osprey Village. Other important regulations worth mentioning: with regards to inland watercourses, there is a 20-meter horizontal setback from inland watercourses. There is also needs to be a 15-meter natural vegetated buffer along the water. However, there are some flexibility for smaller lots or existing structures that do not need to meet that setback. In addition to that, we also added to draft 3 an additional built-in flexibility for non-conforming uses to be able to expand their structure to the sides of the building as long as they maintain the building footprint. In addition to the inland watercourses setbacks, there are also setbacks from inland wetlands. So you cannot build within 20 meters of inland wetlands. That 20-meter area needs to stay in its natural vegetated state. There is some flexibility for smaller lots or existing structures that don't meet the rules. A property owner may submit a study as evidence that a wetland is absent. Habitations of an RV is permitted for 100 days without a permit. Habitation of RV is permitted for more than 180 days with a permit. Recreational vehicles needs to meet the CSA 240 RV or an equivalent standard. If more than 3 recreational vehicles on a lot, it represents a campground, an RV park, and is permitted only by development agreement. Tiny houses will be permitted in all rural zones. Home-based businesses are also permitted in most zones throughout the municipality as a commercial use, and there are some minor regulations about home-based businesses in the rural residential zone. What are the next steps? We are currently at the information session stage, and today that's the last information session. We are moving towards a public hearing that will occur June 25th. Following the public hearing, if council decides to proceed to a second reading, they can do so at the same day or following. If council does conduct a second reading, documents are adopted and are sent to provincial approval. Written submissions to council can be made until 5 p.m. on Tuesday, June 23rd. Submissions can be sent to the planning staff, so at planning@modl.ca. The final opportunity to provide an oral feedback at the public hearing on June 25th at 6 p.m. at the Municipal Council chambers. A public hearing is an opportunity for the public to share feedback with council on the proposed planning documents. Unlike engagement events, council can only hear feedback and ask questions for clarifications. No debate or discussion is permitted. After the public hearing, council may choose to conduct the second reading on the same night. To find out what zone your property is in, visit the interactive zoning map by scanning the QR code or by visiting modl.ca at planning and click for the zoning map. So I'll give you a minute or two if you would like to screenshot or take a photo of the QR code. Thank you for attending this information session. For more information, you can scan the QR code or visit engage.modl.ca and look for the MODL 2040 project. And we can stop recording and move to